Well, good morning, Redeemer Bible Church. My name is Jason Stinson. I'm one of your pastors here at the church, and this is another edition of the Daily Word. And today we're continuing in Matthew chapter 15, and we've got verses 21 through 39, where we see more accounts of Jesus's miracles. And so here we start to see that Jesus' miracles, he's out of Galilee, and these miracles here aren't just necessarily with the Jews, as they're with everyone. And so especially in our first account here is with a Canaanite woman. So I'm going to start to read here in verses 21 through 28. And I think we're going to see some really amazing things come out here. And I'm going to go ahead and give you the three things to kind of watch out for as we read it. I might just stop as I'm reading through these things and pick these out. But we're going to see three main points just in 21 through 28 with this story of the Canaanite woman and her daughter that is demon possessed. And we're going to see one major thing is that true faith can be found where we don't expect it to be found. And number two, we're going to see that affliction can prove to be a blessing to someone's soul. And three, we're going to see that Christ's people oftentimes are less gracious than Christ himself, right? I think we know that as well. But let's just read along here. This is verses 1 through 28. This is this first kind of story of healing in our passage that we have. And it says, "And Jesus went from there and withdrew to the district of Tyre and Sidon. And behold, a Canaanite woman from that region came out and was crying, 'Have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David. My daughter is severely oppressed by a demon.'" So right here we already see that she's not only is she a woman, but she's a Canaanite woman. She's not what you expect for someone to recognize and kind of give this recognition of Christ being the Lord. And even up until this point, many times in his meetings with people and healing people, we're not hearing this type of like recognition of who Jesus really is. And so this is an impressive thing that somewhere we would not expect, his ministry to have even gotten to, but even more so for people to actually finally recognize him. And we're going to read on forward here as this goes, and you're going to see the disciples are going to kind of like dismiss her completely because of who she is. And we're also going to see that Jesus is going to say some things that sound somewhat harsh, but they're actually not harsh. So let's just read this and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. So and starting in verse 23, "But he did not answer her a word after she talked to him there. And his disciples came and begged him, saying, 'Send her away, for she is crying out after us.' And Jesus answered, 'I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel.' But she came and knelt before him, saying, 'Lord, help me.' And Jesus answered her, 'It is not right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs.'" And so right here, when you read that, it almost sounds like Jesus is being harsh with her. The disciples immediately were harsh. And that's what I was talking about before, where we see that that Christ's people are often less gracious than Christ himself. And I think all of us have stories of being in church, or that of Christians or other people that we know that call themselves or professing Christians that have dealt with us harshly and weren't gracious at all. And so we understand that this answer that Jesus gives to her, even though it sounds kind of harsh, we understand Jesus' character and that he's actually not being harsh. And what he's doing here is in the way he's speaking to her, he's actually making a point to the disciples, turning how their reaction to her, kind of turning it back on them, and also drawing out kind of this he's drawing out this expression of faith from her, right? So that's what I'm trying to get at here. What he's saying to her sounds harsh, but he's actually tenderly trying to draw out a profession of faith. And just listen what she says because of the words that he says to her. And she says in verse 27, "Yes, Lord, yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." So she recognizes, and this response is filled with faith of who Jesus is. And so Jesus in verse 28 says, he answered her, "O woman, great is your faith. Be it done to you. Be it done for you as you desire." And her daughter was healed instantly. And so here, I think something we don't want to miss is what I had mentioned before, that affliction can prove to be a blessing to someone's soul. That this woman here has this daughter that is demon possessed. She is being afflicted by the devil and demons, and so she recognizes Jesus as Lord, and having no earthly help for her daughter, understands that Jesus can, because of who he is, can and is the only one that can help her and help her daughter. And so her daughter has this affliction, but if it wasn't for that affliction, she would have never come to Jesus the way that she had to come and ask for help. And I love her prayer here when she prostrates herself before him and she says, "Lord, help me." And I think that's such an awesome thing for us to think about as we are in prayer, as we're going through trials, as whatever affliction that we might have on our life, that we don't just become angry about that or upset or resentful, but we come to the Lord in those moments and understand the fact that even our afflictions can be a blessing to our soul. And if anything else, what we need to do is just bow before the Lord and ask, "Lord, help me," and to be persistent and to persevere in prayer in our life. And so now Jesus comes to this other story where he's in verses 29 through 31, and there's this account of him healing a bunch more people. I'm going to read this here. It says, "Jesus went from there and walked beside the Sea of Galilee. And he went up on the mountain and sat down there. And great crowds came to him, bringing with them the lame, the blind, the crippled, the mute, and many others. And they put them at his feet, and he healed them. So that the crowd wondered when they saw the mute speaking, the crippled healthy, the lame walking, and the blind seeing, and they glorified the God of Israel." And so here, it's definitely, it's amazing that we see Jesus here, just his ease of being able to heal people and their afflictions, right? And people coming from all over the place. And I think it's something that we don't want to miss in this, is that when you think about how difficult it would have been for people to make it to Jesus with all of these ailments. We talk about people being lame and crippled and not able to speak and being blind. And what the challenges it would be in this day, especially in that day, for them to be able to travel, for them to move, and the great lengths in which they go to have physical healing. And I think it's sad almost to see that these people, it's almost like they live like this is all that they have, that for physical healing is all that they need. They don't seem to show, just like before, a need for spiritual healing. But Jesus is kind, and he heals them, and he heals their sickness. And it's important for us, to me, that to understand that our souls are sicker than anything that could ever happen to our bodies, and understand that with the same ease that Jesus can heal people of their lameness and their blindness, he can and will heal a soul that would come to him. And so I think that that's something that we just need to really be thinking about, that though he can heal with great ease ailments like that, he can also heal the soul. And it's sad here that we don't see these people caring or understanding who Jesus is, that these temporary things of this life are not as important as the healing of their souls. So then through verses 32 all the way through 39, we have the story of Jesus feeding the 4,000. And this story is very similar to the other story that we had in Matthew 14, when he fed the 5,000 and the multitudes there. And again, I won't go too far into this here. I'm going to read this here, and I'm going to point out the fact that the main point of telling this story here, along with the other one, is to show Christ's great compassion, to show his wonderful compassion to people, and for him to care so much. And it says that, and I think throughout all of the Bible, when we look at the characteristics of Jesus and the different things that it said about him, we get his compassion almost more than anything else. And so just listen to the compassion here as I read this story. But verse 32, it said, "Then Jesus called his disciples to him and said, 'I have compassion on the crowd.'" This is that crowd of people that he just healed. "Because they have been with me now 3 days and have nothing to eat. And I am unwilling to send them away hungry." We hear, he has compassion on this crowd. He says he has compassion on this crowd that has been with him. And again, whether or not they wanted to hear what he had to say, or whether or not they cared about their souls being healed or not, Jesus has compassion and mercy on them. And we are to have the same towards people, whether they want to hear a message or not, for us to be kind and compassionate to them. He says he's unwilling to send them away lest they faint on the way. And the disciples said to him, again, just kind of like, it's amazing that they, even after all that they've seen and been a part of, that they would have to ask this question, but they do. And I think we're similar in that we forget so quickly. It says, "Where are we to get enough bread in such a desolate place to feed such a great crowd?" And Jesus said to them, "How many loaves do you have?" And they said, 7, and a few small fish. And directing the crowd to sit down on the ground, he took the 7 loaves and the fish, and having given thanks, he broke them and gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the crowds. And they all ate and were satisfied. So we see that Jesus meets this great need, right? That he is the one that can give overly and abundantly more than we could ever ask or think. That he provides for his people, that he provides for us, and even more so than what we need. And so it goes on here. And they took up 7 baskets full of the broken pieces left over. Those who ate were 4,000 men, besides women and children. So again, probably the women and children combined here, we're looking at probably 15 to 20,000 people. It's amazing. And after sending away the crowds, he got into the boat and went to the region of Magadan. And so again, here I don't want us to forget, even through all of these stories of healing here, these 3 new ones that we have, is Christ's great compassion for all people, and that he has that same compassion for us. So that is our daily word for today. We'll catch you next time.